Okay, let's start with a really easy. Mike, how did you end up getting into aviation quickly? Essentially, how did you end up on this stage?
Considering you guys bested me. But no, it's been a couple of years that I've been participating. And obviously, head of the region, it's only right that I am on this stage and talk about the industry and the company.
How's business?
You really want me to answer that?
I do, yeah. We're going to start with a cheery note.
Yeah. Have a look at your notes from last year.
Sorry?
Look at your notes from last year. Yeah. So as I predicted last year, it was a terrible 2018. But I must say the last few months have been encouraging. We've seen a few positive signs.
Does anyone want to go? Does everyone agree it was a terrible year last year?
We have a steady customer base, so I think we met our targets because we did increase the customer base, but we were still able to meet the targets.
Richard?
Yeah, I think it was quite a lot of hard work, but like Mike said, it wasn't the most amazing year. And hopefully today we can figure out what you can do to improve it.
I think last year was tough, yes. It wasn't as bad, I think, as Mike appears to be. And I think I see positive growth signs this year, not only the UAE, but also some of the markets around us, which I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Rob, you're in a unique market, aren't you? You're very much BBJ and ExecuJet focused. How was your year last year?
Yeah, I don't know if you read what we said at the Saudi Air Show, but 2018 was actually a record year for Royaljet in the 15 years we've been around. So we're feeling pretty good, and actually I like to hear that the last couple of years haven't been great, because if they haven't been great, maybe things could get even better for us. So I have to say, you're right, we have a unique market, we have a unique customer base. We are the niche BBJ operator, and so maybe things are different for us, but it's been quite good for us. If the Saudi market comes back, if some other things happen, it could be even better, so I'm excited about that. So I do have that optimism for the future, but no, maybe it's because we've made some tweaks and some changes and some efficiencies, but it was a very good year for us on that side. Maybe it's the charter side.
Does anyone have any high points for last year? Anything you would, to try and make us cheery and happy? Anyone, anything, the charter market was strong for Royaljet?
We did a lot more maintenance business together with friends of Lufthansa Technique, so we're really starting to do a lot more on the Airbus corporate jet and the BBJs. So that's, although we have a lot more capacity to go forward, but that's a positive element. We're getting more known, we're getting more capabilities, so that's an important element in our offering mix, basically.
What's your biggest headache, Richard? What's your biggest problem day to day?
I think everybody would agree that setting customer expectations is probably something that we need to work on quite hard, but also it's figuring out what we can do to further innovate and actually, create value to clients when they're starting to wonder, should I own this aircraft? Are there programs around which I can, do it cheaper through charter or programs for fixed hours, things like that. It's just getting an understanding of, where we need to go next in a fairly complicated business, how we can simplify it just through, innovation and, forward-looking attitudes.
That's interesting, actually, because one of the things people have always said about the Middle East is vendors want to own and not charter. And do you see that changing?
Yeah, Alasdair, I think that's one of our biggest headaches for Middle East at the moment. The composition of our fleet has changed over the last few years. The days when we had 40% of the fleet, 30% available for charter are gone. We're struggling at the moment to try and find owners that actually want to put the aircraft up for charter. So likewise, when I hear, and I do see some of the other operators are doing some good charter flying, unfortunately we're just not in the game at the moment because we don't have a fleet.
And why don't they want to do it? Because are they using the aircraft so much that they can't?
It's not that they're using it so much. I think there's some of them are new owners with a new mindset that it's mine, I don't want to share it. And rightly so, when you understand that they're paying a lot of money for it with their own touch and personal touch in the aircraft, they don't want to share that. And they don't really need that little bit of charter margin that it brings.
And also, I guess, are any of them looking at tech and going the extra depreciation, it just isn't made up for the charter hours? Or
No, it hasn't come to that, but yeah, there has been one or two discussions where clearly they're starting to understand that, hang on, that's a few more cycles, it does do something to the life of the aircraft and the end value.
Captain Ramandeep, have you got anything positive there?
Yeah, so the good thing about our company is that we have, all eggs are not in the same basket. We have so many things which we are expanding. And we knew the charter market is part of our business, but we also have grown hugely into MRO business, which we are now invested into Dubai South into a new hangar, which is our future this year, starting next month. And then we have FBO, and we have helicopter charter business, which is adding to this charter. So this kind of vast collage gives us, fairly, we are going to spread our business on all these segments. So it's a good thing for us. We are growing into, when everyone is slowing down, we are growing. So that's a good thing for us.
That's the only way to survive at the moment, sorry.
Just want to say, I can echo that the mix of the business between the management, the FPO, the maintenance, in our case hangar parking as well, it's an important thing. We're not that active in the charter market, would like to do a bit more there, but it's the mix which makes it happen, yes.
As long as you don't come into the BBJ level, we're okay with more charter. But same thing with us is diversification is the key. Even though our charter business is doing well, say our FBO business hasn't been. It's been going down in small increments, but not all businesses is rising. So I would agree. And we don't do aircraft management, so that's why we have a positive view right now, maybe.
We've got some questions coming in from the audience. Are there really new owners coming into the Middle East market? Or is it just owners upgrading and renewing?
No, you want to highlight for ExecuJet last year? Yeah, we managed to find 2 brand new first-time owners, pre-owned aircraft. But that was encouraging in the market conditions that there were 2 new owners that had come from nowhere.
Yeah, similarly, we had also first-time buyers, first-time owners, yes. And again, pre-owned aircraft first, so that seems the way people get into the business.
Just a really nice question. For those of you who manage aircraft, hands up if your fleet grew last year. If your fleet grew last year. Do we want to do hands up if it declined?
It's been declining for us year on year. And yes, it sounds like, the fleet has gone down, and our fleet over the last 5-6 years, we've lost 40% of the fleet. But if you have a look at how many of those aircraft were actually sold out the region, totally out of your control on that. So we've had a lot of that in, and unfortunately a lot of those were our charter missions.
We had the same fleet, no growth, no reduction.
But like I said earlier, this is the time where we need to work extra hard with these aircraft owners to ensure, that they can afford to continue operating the aircraft. When it comes to these tough times we've seen in the past, is that people stop talking to each other, maybe start flying less, the bills take a little bit longer to get paid, and ultimately, if you don't engage and don't act and cooperate, you just end up with an aeroplane parked on a ramp under an inch of dust. So nobody wants that. So while we're not maybe growing it, we are working very hard on ensuring that we're sweating the asset as much as possible.
So there's another, talking about sweating the asset, another nice question from the audience. How are passenger demands changing in the region? What about the number of flight hours per aircraft?
It varies an awful lot. There's some aircraft who don't fly an awful lot and fly the same routes most of the time, and there are others which are extremely actively used. That really depends on the owner. I don't think year over year there's been a big change in that. No.
Anyone else want to comment?
One thing I see in the airline industry, the first class segment is going down. They are going to downsize that. That will give impetus to the private jets, I think. I feel that's the direction to go.
Well, and if you take what the 2 gentlemen said about the new buyers buying used aircraft, as compared to maybe in the past there was a lot of new aircraft being bought in, On the charter market, it's the same change, I would say, is that the age of the aircraft isn't a big deal these days. A lot of customers just don't ask if the interior's nice, if it's a good experience, it's a good service, and that kind of thing. And if the price is right, then they're happy to fly on that aircraft. So I know when I was in Saudi with NAS 15 years ago, age was everything. Age, I don't want to fly an aircraft less than 5 years old or more than 5 years old, and you know, make sure it's the age and when was the interior done and that kind of thing. It's price driven a lot these days. Maybe a little bit less than it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. There's a little bit more decision making around other things, around maybe the date of the refurb or something like that, but less than it used to be for sure.
I think this part of the world, they change the cars every 5 years, so they think that jets need to be doing the same. But I think that number should be 10 to 12 years, not 5.
Or more.
Are you seeing new charter customers coming? Are we seeing it, or is it still the standard? Are we seeing a new generation come in and discover?
Well, I can't really talk to them because, as I said, I would love them to come knock on the door. But no, I think the thing with us is once the region understands that you don't have charter aircraft available, they just don't approach us.
I think from RoyalJet's side, there's a bit of both. There are new customers, some new regions we're getting deeper into, some more Africa flying, Southeast Asian flying, that kind of thing, but also just more repeat customers flying more. So I think maybe the budgets aren't quite as tight as they were a year and a half, 2 years ago. So there's some more activity happening with some repeat customers. But one thing I'd have to say is a lot of the business these days comes through brokers. And that's something that we didn't see years ago either, is the broker market is very strong now.
Yeah, we see that through because we have a central broker desk that's based out of Luton that looks after really the global fleet. And there's definitely a shift to brokers. So I think customers or owners and that are getting smarter about using brokers now to get the best deals out there. But it must be a good market as well, because I see VistaJet pretty active in the region. And certainly there's a lot of aircraft that are always dropping in for maintenance. So that's
So how do you guys feel about, you're all based in the region, you're all committed to it. How do you feel about, bear in mind there's some of the room, foreign operators coming over here and taking your charter?
I could speak to that one if you like. As a local charter operator that's invested locally, and we've had this discussion before, we have a heavy cost base here. In terms of having an AOC in here, having A6 registered aircraft, it's not cheap to do that here. So having foreign operators come in and park an aircraft and hunt for the business, and that, when we can't do that in a foreign jurisdiction, that's a big thorn in our side, because it will eventually, if it's allowed to continue, drive companies like us either out of business or to move our operations to other areas where it's lower cost to operate. Our customers don't demand an A6 aircraft necessarily, so why do we have an A6 aircraft? Why are we spending the money here? So we spend a lot of time talking to the government entities, to the different regulators, to try and level that playing field. But the issue that the new rules that came out in December from the GCAA actually made it easier for foreign operators, because they took away the parking restriction here.
I think if the aviation industry in UAE has to grow, they'll have to allow foreign operators, because there's so many other aspects. The airports need to grow, FBOs need to grow, MROs need to grow. Yes, as an operator, we have to take that hit and come out with different solutions. But if industry has to grow, we have to allow foreign operators to be here.
I'm not sure I fully agree with you there. I think we also just need to expect a certain level of protection in our own backyard. As Alasdair said, it's an expensive business to run. We maintain and service, VistaJet aircraft and Hamburg aircraft, and we're happy for them to come visit us at Sharjah. And as we've spoken about this subject for the last 10 years, I'm fairly tired of it, and as Mike has explained, we've all kind of moved on into proper management of airplanes, and if there's charter on the side, that's great. It's not going to change the landscape. I'm happy that people like Rob and them are doing it. They probably have a greater say with the GCA than we do, but we're about done with having that discussion really. But it's not right. It won't be right either.
So you're bored but unhappy?
Yeah, I'm permanently unhappy now.
It's really an issue that has multiple sides to it because our FBO benefits from these aircraft being here, of course, and the airports benefit and that kind of thing, but our charter business doesn't. So it's how do you address that in a fair way with maybe an NOC process or something like that that has some protection for local operators, but it's up to the government entities and what they want to do. Are they just looking to bring more traffic, or are they looking to have a balance?
Of course, there's a nice question for the audience. The other option is Middle Eastern owners could just move away from A6 towards Maltese and Aruba.
Well, they have already. And just going back, can anybody remember the last two charter companies that started up in Dubai, or Abu Dhabi for that matter? They don't exist anymore. When's the last time somebody actually made a success of it?
Some people only fly charter on the T7, for instance. The question is out there indeed. Do we need A6? Yes.
And the answer? Because that's the question.
I don't have the exact answer yet. I think for the moment we do, yes. And I think the government, coming back on the foreign registered aircraft, notably commercial aircraft, they're definitely tracking everything quite precisely. I'm not exactly sure what they do with the data. But as Richard said as well, it's a give and take. It has happened since years, and there's benefits as well if you have an FBO, if you have a maintenance and a hangar center like we have. So there's nothing new, basically.
So there's a nice segue from this. So you've got operators from abroad coming over. Mike, I don't know if you noticed, there was a big deal in January where some maintenance got sold to Dassault. So how does there's a question from the audience, how does the Falcon Dassault takeover affect Bombardier MRO's services offered in Dubai?
Nothing changes. It's common practice that MRO facilities, like operators around the world, have a mix of aircraft that they support. And this transaction was carefully thought out with the implications on other manufacturers as well. And at this point in time, we don't foresee any change from any of the manufacturers to say, hang on, we need to relook this at this present time.
But it is interesting, isn't it? You guys are all reliant on maintenance,
Yeah.
and there's a trend for, we all not so reliant on maintenance, but there is a trend for OEMs to move in, and we saw it with Jet Aviation buying Hawker Pacific.
Yeah.
We've seen Dassault buying TAG as well as ExecuJet. Do you guys worry that the OEMs are going to want to dominate maintenance?
Before the transaction, yeah, you're right, that was happening because we saw it happen in Singapore, we saw it happen in China, where ExecuJet had invested in a big maintenance facility there. Concern going forward, tell you the truth, Alasdair, all I got to do now is worry about how I get a maintenance service to my managed aircraft, and leave that to the Dassault boys to worry about.
But you guys have all got maintenance, or you three have got maintenance.
Yes.
I think it's a good thing. You know, it's nice to have the OEM options around. So new facilities in Big and what's coming up in Farnborough is going to be good for all of us to give us options for base maintenance. You know, Gama doesn't generally do a lot of base maintenance, especially on new warranty-covered aircraft. So our bread and butter is more in line maintenance and fast support out to remote areas. When we do base maintenance, it's normally on older aircraft as well, which we do much of in Bournemouth. So there's always been a lack of maintenance availability. So we're happy with it.
So do you see that the future will be, if you're an independent MRO, you're not going to get warranty work, you're not going to be an authorised service centre, you're going to have to focus on the older legacy aircraft that the OEMs don't want?
Yeah, I think so. But you can still do warranty work under certain conditions, covered by programs and things like that. But we're not going to go up against Bombardier, Gulfstream and Dassault really.
But I think the OEMs are going to be smart about this. It all depends on what the fleet size in each region is for them. And it may make perfect sense to just be status quo rather than big regions where they may take a different view.
They do wonder, don't you, whether Bombardier is going to want Dassault servicing their aircraft.
I'm looking at my Bombardier friends and I'm getting no indication at all from them.
Okay.
One of the benefits,
That's
though, Alasdair,
why new players like us come in.
one of the benefits, though, Alasdair, of course, as just even if you're doing your own maintenance, is the more that the manufacturers do this, the larger the spares will probably be in the region. So access to spares is very important, and the more that's local here, the happier we are.
Even if you have to pay more for them.
Well, no.
But Alistair, to that point, Dassault has been very happy with Jet Aviation doing their maintenance in Dubai at this point in time, so why should the mindset change?
Yeah,
The other way around.
I think we should see change. You know, Bombardier used to support, I think, 1 in 5 aircraft. They're saying by 2020 they want to do 50%. So I think we're seeing a sea change when, and you know, you do wonder how long independence.
It doesn't distract from the point that OEMs are clearly taking a new view on it. Yeah.
But still, I think perhaps in this period of a bit of upheaval in the maintenance business, we hope to get perhaps a bit of positive, input in more maintenance. We tend to maintain the aircraft we operate, various types. As I said before, we're getting more into the bigger aircraft market, ExecuJet, BBJ, together with Lufthansa Technique. And for the heavier check, we still have our headquarters in Stuttgart as well, which we work actively together with. So I see a silver lining in all these changes, and having operator and maintenance centers still have a sizable slice of the market.
Alistair, if I can just on that point with the whole transaction for ExecuJet as operator now, it's going to be interesting for us how we change our strategy going to market, because we've always had the comprehensive solution which we've always sold and built our strength on, and now we have still a brand alongside us that we hope nothing changes and we can keep that aircraft management model going. But in some cases, having that comprehensive has worked for us, sometimes has worked against us. But our challenge as we go through 2019 now is trying to get the market to understand the subtle differences that may come out from this and how we as an operator need to change our marketing strategy.
There's a quick question about MRO. How might big data affect MRO opportunities? Predictability, routine, other effects? Anything else? Okay.
I haven't made it to one of your Revolution shows. We'd like to go to it. I know people are talking a lot about how you can, leverage blockchain technology to traceability of aircraft parts and things like that. I mean, it's already a massive big data business, aircraft maintenance and recording of that, but there's still a lot of paperwork that goes on. So it will feature massively in it, but there are people smarter than me who will figure it out.
Good to know. Thank you for cross-promoting. By the way, if anyone would like to ask an old-fashioned question, we do have a microphone if anyone's would prefer to do old school. Could the panel comment on opportunities originating from Saudi Arabia?
I think there are opportunities, definitely. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, there was the first complete Saudi air show, and I think surprisingly it was very positive. We really could feel there's a change in the market. So I'm hopeful that Saudi Arabia basically becomes a bigger factor again in the region in terms of aircraft buying and flying. And I think we need that at the moment because the UAE has been, relatively flat. So perhaps that can kickstart the whole operations again.
We've seen activity from the Saudi market on the charter side for sure this year, coming from the government mostly. So there's lots of activity, lots of events and things going on over there that they're putting on. The Al Ula, the NEOM project, those kinds of things. And even just as Paul said, being at the Saudi Air Show, there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of activity going on, but it seems to be government for now. And just the fact that they have a Ministry of Entertainment and a Ministry of Sport and this kind of thing now, they're trying to do a lot of activities, both it seems for the Saudi population as well as to bring people in. So that seems to be driving some more charter activity, at least.
Well, I would caution against
Yeah.
air shows being a good guy. eBay for the last 10 years has been very Sorry, Karen.
So, I mean, there are 59 airports there in Saudi itself, and the air show was, you know, an eye-opener. There's a big market there, internal transport, also business jet charter. So, we as a Falcon, we had a very positive response. FBO, MRO, business jets. So, I think there's a big market there. So, what the flat in UAE, you know, you can be supplemented by a Saudi market.
Okay, another question from the audience. Is there an increase in aircraft sales in the region? And there's two ways to answer that. Are we seeing aircraft being exported from the region still to the US? Are we seeing more aircraft go out and come in?
Yes.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah, the old aircraft are leaving, but the more you talk to OEMs, and recently, I don't know if it was MIBA or something published that they reckon that, yeah, the 2008, 2009 high of 40 aircraft being delivered, they're forecasting 12, 13, 14 over the next 3 years, which to me is a positive sign given where we come from the last few years to have that many. And I know a lot of them are the new 7500s and then big aircraft like that coming into the region.
Okay, are UAE operators and management companies looking into partnerships with Saudi operators?
Yeah, absolutely. We do.
Yes.
That's an interesting part, yes.
Well, we've already established an affiliate company in Jeddah that's going really well. But I would encourage everybody to look into that because it drives the entire market.
Do you see enough private jet financing? And is there enough finance available? Or is it an issue?
Well, you know, earlier we said of the new buyers, the first-time buyers, quite often it's pre-owned aircraft and it's smaller deals. And for those kind of aircraft, it's difficult to find financing. I think there is financing, but it's much easier to finance a 20 million plus brand new or less than 5-year-old aircraft. Once you start with a 15-year-old $5 million aircraft, it's a different story.
If you're financing a $5 million airplane, you probably shouldn't buy it.
Well, we'll take your customer then.
I think it's something that regular banks, not traditional aircraft financiers, I've seen seem to have more of an appetite than they used to. Years ago when I was in Saudi, it was, okay, the bank is willing to do it, but they don't know the asset at all, so you had to go to an asset knowledgeable lender, whereas these days even just the commercial banks seem to be okay with the asset, with the how it holds its value, that type of thing, and they're interested.
Okay. Here's a nice question. If you could all get together and do one thing as operators, what would it be? Collusion. Price fixing.
Honestly, that's a tough one. But I think the one thing that we should strive for, and we kicked off a few, and it was late 2017, 2018, we tried to get together as operators around the table just to have a social chat. And I think to set standards and try and uphold standards. And with standards goes an expected pricing because we're all under pressure on margins. Aircraft management, it's not big business. And I think we have to set standards of expectation of what you need to pay for the service of keeping your aircraft running.
I mean, we must share our resources, but we pilot, we have our services, we must collude, we should not compete. I think that's the only way to go.
Yeah, in addition to that, we could also work a little bit harder together to advocate for this business in general. I mean, I don't see many aircraft owners in this room. We need to work harder to engage them, to get them to understand what we actually do for the money they daily pay us. And potentially, you know, as an industry, it'd be nice to have an industry association that does it for us, but we can do it ourselves as well.
Okay, quick questions, quick fire, because I want to get on to people. You can answer this in 1 or 2 words. Do you feel there is better business opportunities in Dubai or Abu Dhabi?
I have to say Dubai, right?
There's just more activity over here by far.
I think Abu Dhabi is catching up now.
I thought you'd pick a Sharjah. Is lack of local charter aircraft increasing costs for users? And and therefore decreasing activity?
There's no lack of local charter aircraft. They come from all over the place to park here and offer their service.
Okay. Is there any possibility of relaxed regulations from local authorities? Do you actually want relaxed regulations? Okay.
I don't know, I think I disagree with that. In terms of, the US Part 91, Part 135, 121 type thing, it would be nice to see something like that here. Especially, we're not a private operator, we're a commercial operator, but those of you who are aircraft management, your foreign registered aircraft and that sort of thing, they maybe have those capabilities, more flexibility, say on flight time limitations and things like that. I'd love to see something like that here where there's a differentiation between an ad hoc, non-scheduled operator and the airline, because we all get treated like the airlines here.
Yeah, it would be nice to see a bit more cooperation between the civil aviation authorities between the different countries, I would say. Notably UAE and Saudi Arabia. That would help.
Because the harder it is here, we've talked about there's been operators disappear. There's various reasons, but the cost of doing business here is one of them. You see operators go out of business, it's one of the things. If they don't have enough charter business, if they can't compete, then the cost base just kills you.
Okay, are new business models, shuttle, sharing, getting any traction in the region?
I don't see that happening. It has been tried again and again, and it's just not happening, or just not profitable enough to be sustainable.
I think it's not happened, but it's still a possibility.
I think there's more and more, there's more and more empty legs being sold or only live leg stuff being done in the charter market. And when you're just charging a live leg, there's not really room for that sharing model because the rate you have to pay on a live leg is very high. So the whole sharing model is, okay, when there's a cheap empty leg, great, we'll buy that empty leg and we'll sell all the seats on that. That works nicely. There isn't so much in the way of empty legs these days.
Okay. People. How easy is it finding talent and staff to come and work for you?
I think it's difficult, especially on the pilot side, where we tend to have the biggest turn in people. And I think it's really just the geographics of the region. We're not a Europe or a North America where there are qualified pilots type rated to what you require sitting on the doorstep. So everybody we recruit is mostly coming from abroad, and it's a whole relocation of a family or overcoming the safety issues.
I would agree to some extent that the supply is also affected by a market that's not easy to predict, and if you're a pilot and you want to relocate your family out here, you have to ask yourself, how long is this job going to last for? Unfortunately, many situations, the pilots lose their jobs if an aircraft sold out of region. It's massively destabilizing. So what I'm saying, I've had 3 or 4 friends this year call up to say the owners decided to sell the aeroplane, have you got anything going? It's very difficult for them. So a lot of them are opting to rather go to airlines or low-cost carriers to do that. But good talent's around. You need to pay a little bit extra for it, and you need to invest into them. But we don't have a major problem finding it.
I think the demographics have changed. The people are coming from other resources, but of course it's still difficult, but it's still possible.
I don't know if Captain Rahman, you have this issue, but in Abu Dhabi our issue is a bit different. I was talking to Paul about it outside. It's not finding the talent, it's actually getting them in before they find another opportunity, because our timing in Abu Dhabi takes months and months to get someone in, to get through the authentications and the equivalencies and the security checks and all that kind of thing. It can take 6 months and more for us to hire someone. So whether it's a pilot or an engineer or anyone licensed sort of individual, we can find them. But then by the time we get to the point where everything's been done, they've already accepted another job somewhere else. So we're again lobbying the government in Abu Dhabi to speed up that process or shortcut that process in some way.
Right now it's also a pilot's market. And one of the things we face in the region, especially first officers that you need to bring into region, they want to get their hours up, understandably, to get to captain. Easiest way to do that when it's a pilot's market is the commercial airliners are hiring. They'll pop across there for 4 or 5 years, get sufficient hours, and then come back and then maybe pick up a captain position.
The pilot market, the airline market is a competitor. It can be very attractive. On the general HR market, well, I think there's always a lot of candidates. The quality of the candidates is not always there. So it's not getting easier.
There's a question from the audience. Operators seem to have unrealistic expectations for pilot qualifications that don't add to safety compared to the US or EU, especially for first officers. Is this client-driven?
It's not client-driven. I think, Mike mentioned earlier that we need to have, some form of standards, and I know most of our, standards, and they're not onerous. You need, a couple hundred hours to be a co-pilot. It's not that crazy. Interested to hear more about that question.
Sometimes it is only expectations that he wants certain hours on the aircraft. And then it also depends on the balance of the crew that's on that aircraft as well. What do you need to balance out?
Any old school questions or comments from the room? You'll be pleased to know, as you're speaking, you've managed to make 63% more pessimistic.
Nice job, Mike.
I think it was Mike mainly. Okay, final question. Mike, this time last year you said 2018 was going to be rubbish. You're now saying it was rubbish. What's 2019 going to be like?
Well, 2019 has got a whole new curveball with a certain transaction, as you mentioned. But no, we've seen positive signs already. And last year when I said it was rubbish, was really driven about the fallout from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the FBO business and the drop in traffic to our MROs. We are definitely seeing and are predicting a 5% growth on our FBO movements through the year. The managed fleet will always be a challenge, but no, I think we're very optimistic that this year will be better than last year.
I mean, Export 2020, of course, I don't want to say it, but again, that's around the corner. I think our FBO business, MRO business will grow, charter will be stable, so we are okay.
And I still, maybe I'm too sceptical, but I still don't see how Expo is going to make that big a difference to private jet business.
I mean, okay, we have been involved in the helicopter market there, so we have been asked to do that. But private jet, I mean, maybe there will be more movements for MRO and FBO. Yeah.
That's all it is, Alasdair, from historic events around the world. The build up to it, it's just those visiting business jets that come in that 6 months prior to and a few months after. So it's really just about movements.
Okay, sorry, I was being less optimistic. Richard?
We're just going to keep our heads down and work hard, build the Saudi business that we started up, and finish this business aviation centre in Sharjah. See what it's like at the end of the year.
Is it better or less? Worse?
Working to get better.
This is you as a stock exchange listed company not giving forward guidance.
Not allowed.
I think it's a tough year, but we keep on growing and we keep on looking positively outward. I'm optimistic that it will improve further.
And from our side, 3 months in the books, so far so good, even better than last year. So hopefully that's a trend that keeps going. I'd rather not hear what I heard outside of somebody saying that it's fallen off a cliff. So I hope there are no cliffs we're coming to fall off of. But so far so good.
Okay, we're going to end quick fire. Last questions from the audience. Rob, why no small and medium-sized aircraft in the region? You seem like the least qualified person for that one.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many VistaJets and that sort of thing coming through that there's a lot of options that people have. They have the single legs and that kind of thing. So, I know from Royal Jet's perspective, from our strategy, we're not looking to buy any more small jets or put anything else in the fleet that side, because there is global competition with those aircraft sizes, whether it's managed aircraft or owned.
Anyone else? We ever going to see light jets? No? Okay. Definitive answer from Richard. Here's a nice question from VistaJet. Do your charter management companies have a branding challenge when compared to others like ExecuJet? It's true, isn't it? There's very few big brands in business aviation.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing product. You know, it's something that we'll find very hard to compete, you know, like for like with. So we are not a charter operator. We manage aircraft and sell supplemental lift to people.
ExecuJet is doing one thing and is doing that quite well. And we tend to do multiple things. So yes, the brand might not be as worldwide, but still we need locally and regionally to have a good brand.
Okay, final question. Describe your job in one word. Rob, you've got it. Let's see.
Facilitation. Just facilitating the business model.
I want to have 2 words, challenging and fun.
You should combine it.
Building relationships.
That's 2 words. Richard?
I wonder and listen to you. It's managing expectations.
Frustrated.
And on that, thank you very